What's up guys, it's John, and today we're going to be installing the SBX barrel for the Ruger 1022 Takedown from Tactical Solutions. By now you've seen the first impressions video shooting with this barrel, and I thought it would be cool to see the install and show that to you guys because a 1022 Takedown is not a super common thing to be swapping barrels on at this point. This is, as far as I know, the first barrel designed to swap for that. So we're going to take a look at it and walk you through the install process. Fairly simple. If you have not seen the first impressions video, there's a link in the description of the video down below, so please go check that out. So first things first, as I clear out my workspace here, this is actually part of the packaging and has the installation instructions in it. Pretty cool. Nice quality. Like it. So we need to disassemble the 1022 Takedown. For those of you that don't know, you just pull back on the action, twist, and as you're pulling on this lever here, you can take it off. We do not need this portion, the receiver portion of the gun, for this install. So we're just going to set that aside over here. So the first thing we're going to need to do is dismantle this. We need to get this fore end off of this barrel assembly. So there's a barrel band here. You can see that's just a flathead screwdriver, and we've also got a screw here. So let's get to doing that. Wow, this is super complicated. I'm kidding. This is really easy. So you can see that's just coming through there. That's going to pop apart. We'll set that aside. Loosen the barrel band to the point where it slides forward. You can see that it just kind of, you split it and pull it right off of there. Now the only thing holding it on is this screw back here. So let's go ahead and loosen that up. Now these things are not super tight. Obviously the 22 long rifle does not have a bunch of force on it. So, you know, you're not dealing with a Magnum rifle. You're just dealing with 22 long rifle pressures and specs. All right, so that's getting a little tight. Let's go ahead and continue unscrewing that. Okay, so as you can see, that screw came out of there, and we should be able to slide this back, I believe, and off of the assembly. There you go. There's your fore end, and this is your Ruger 1022 Takedown barrel assembly. Now, what you can see a little more clearly is the plunger that helps it lock into the receiver. You can see there's a spring, and then there's a detent inside that spring that holds this plunger together. You also have the locking lever, which is what you interact with underneath the fore end to get this to lock and unlock out of the receiver. So what we have to do is disassemble this right here, and it should be fairly simple. Our next step in disassembly is taking apart this block. This plunger is in there under pressure via this locking lever. So what we need to do is push this back, take tension off of it, and pop this out. Now you may or may not be able to see, let me get a pick here. Right underneath there, there's a little bit of a channel. Obviously that's so it can slide back and forth, but what I'm going to attempt to do is use some fishing line to wrap around there and pull that out because it is under tension and I don't want to mar this up. This is not my rifle. This actually belongs to my buddy Brian that you guys have seen. So I'm going to try and keep this as clean as I possibly can. So let's get to that.
That little lever was a slippery piece. I tried fishing line and that didn't work. I tried cloth and a wrench, that didn't work, and after about 10 minutes of struggling, I opted to use channel lock pliers to get the thing out.
Okay, so I got it. That took a little bit more effort than I thought. They did say in the instructions that this would be tight, so I get it. What I had to do it off camera so that I could get the proper torque on the thing. I used a screwdriver to push this flat, as you can see, and then I used my pliers to pull straight out. You know, your experience may vary, but I got it out. We're ready to keep rolling. Let's do this. So the next step is to pull this entire assembly out of here. So you pull forward. This is called the plunger. You can see that is where the locking lever goes through. We'll set that aside. There's also a detent and a spring in here. We'll see if we can get that out. There we go. So there's the detent, and behind it was the spring. Now, get my tools out of the way here. Now you can see these two holes here. Inside those holes, we've got screws, and they need to come out. This block needs to come off so we can install it on the new barrel. Let's get to that. So I've got a 9/64 Allen key, and we're going to take these two screws out, and that should remove this block from the original barrel. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Again, these are not under a whole lot of pressure. When you torque these back down, they say to use 20 inch-pounds, but I'm just going to do it hand tight because I trust myself not to over-torque it. Okay, there's one out, and as you can see, that's coming right off of there. Okay, let's go ahead and keep unscrewing this. It's interesting to see the different arrangements between the factory stainless barrel and the Tactical Solutions. You can kind of see in the background there. That's a little rusty, no big deal, that happens. So there's our block. We need to make sure that this is aligned in this sort of fashion on the flat spot on the new barrel. So let's take our old barrel, there you go, you can see it, and we're going to set this aside. We don't need this anymore. So here we go, there's that. Now we can begin the process of reinstalling all of this on the Tactical Solutions SBX barrel. So let's do that. So our next step is to install the block onto the new barrel using the same hardware. So we're going to go ahead and get this aligned. It'll just kind of sit like that. No, maybe it doesn't want to. Okay, so we've got our forward screw on the Allen key, and we're just going to kind of line it up. Forgive me if I get this a little wacky. I am doing this off to the side. So there we go. And I'm a former car guy, recovering car guy, so I don't tighten anything down until everything is in place and I know it's good. I know that's a good practice to have on guns as well. So we're just taking that second screw, working it into the block, into the hole in the bottom of the barrel with our 9/64 Allen key. And there we go. It's just tight. It just kind of bottomed out. So what I'm going to do is give that a little tighten, give that a little tighten, and then we're going to go a hair more. There we go. There we go. Okay, I am confident that that is secure, so the next step is to reinstall our plunger assembly that we see here. We've got the plunger, the spring, the detent, and of course the locking lever. First in is the spring. So the detent essentially acts as a buffer between the spring and the plunger assembly, so that's just going to slide right in there. Big end first. It'll drop in and reside inside that spring. And while I have this apart, I'm just going to put a little lubrication on the plunger. And I'm using Slip 2000 just because it's handy. I'll just put a little drop on there and I'll spread it around with my fingers. And there was a hair of rust on here, but nothing too serious. So I'm just lubricating it to make sure that it's a properly maintained machine. Okay, so plunger goes back inside of this. It appears to be symmetrical, so we should not have any issues. Again, it rides on that detent inside there. You can see that. So now what I'm going to have to do is push that back in to the point where I can reinstall the locking lever. So I'm going to get my screwdriver again. And this is going to be a little awkward for me, so forgive me. I'm going to go ahead and push that in. And I'm going to take my locking lever and push it down into the assembly. Now keep in mind, I'm like off to the side of the camera here, just so you guys can see this clearly. So again, it's a little awkward to be doing this. Okay, there we go. Pushed it back. Actually used my hands, did not need the screwdriver in that case. And our locking lever / block assembly is now mounted on the new barrel. There you can see it. It's mounted nice and flush, looks good. Now it's time to reinstall the old fore end. Now keep in mind, we've got that screw we got to line up. We got a couple things to line up here. That will help us keep everything good to go. I pulled that off camera just so I could make sure that the holes were set. Okay, so now it's time to go back through our fore end and screw this in. Now, I'll show you something interesting. The screw I'm actually working in here actually contacts the bottom of the barrel, and I'll show you where in just a second. And I think it's pretty interesting. Okay. Now it kind of wobbles as you put it back on and doesn't look like it's going to sit flush, but once you start getting it tight, it starts to align itself properly and fits really, really nice. You can see the gap here is closing as we get tighter. That's a good thing. That's what we want. And again, this is one of those screws that they want you to torque down a certain way. And I'm just going to get it hand tight. And there. So that's tight. I think that's confident. So now I'm going to slip the barrel band back over everything. And remember, it has some flex in it, so it should just drop right on. There you go. We'll drop the nut into one side as usual. Up. I'll hold the nut in as I thread the old screw into it. All right, so look at that. We've got our 1022 takedown 4-end barrel assembly with the new Tactical Solutions SBX barrel. It's got the shroud out front, the inert can in there, and it is ready to rock and roll. I hope you guys learned something about the 1022 takedown and how to install this barrel. If you enjoyed the video, please give it that old thumbs up. I really appreciate it when you guys do that. If you haven't yet, of course, subscribe to my channel for more cool things just like this. And as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you soon.
Remember, guys, you can support the channel more by going to patreon.com/I'mWithChaos.